She laughed at the little ring in front of a whole restaurant. Then fate quietly started keeping score. I'm going to tell you this the way my grandmother told me stories, slow enough to feel, plain enough to remember. Because this isn't just about a purse or a proposal. It's about what happens when someone treats love like a receipt. Have you ever watched a person weigh a heart against a price tag and still call it standards? Mason Hart was the kind of young man who carried hope like a toolbox, banged up, heavy, and always within reach. He fixed things. Phones, fences, friendships, whatever needed mending. He also had a plan, the sort of plan that keeps you awake at night and gets you out of bed early. A small online parts business he'd been growing out of his apartment, shipping orders after his day job ended. Every spare dollar went into inventory, labels, and postage. Every spare hour went into learning. And every time the numbers didn't add up, he told himself, not forever. Then there was Sloane. Pretty as a magazine cover and sharp as a tack. Folks in our town said Mason outkicked his coverage, and maybe he did, if you only look at faces. But Mason didn't date a face. He dated a person. Or at least he believed he did. Sloane liked nice things the way some people like air. She acted like she couldn't breathe without them. That's not a sin on its own. Wanting comfort isn't wrong. But the way she wanted it, oh, honey, that's where the trouble began. It started on a Tuesday, right after Mason got paid. He'd been saving for weeks, skipping lunches, washing his own work shirts in the sink, putting gas in the car $5 at a time. He showed up at Sloane's place with a gift bag and that nervous excitement men get when they're trying to be a good provider before they're fully able. Close your eyes, he said, smiling so hard his cheeks looked sore. Sloane squealed like it was a holiday. I know what it is, she said. I've been begging you. Mason's voice went soft. I want you to feel cared for. I really do. She opened the bag and pulled out a beautiful leather purse, classic shape, warm caramel color, the kind that lasts. It wasn't bargain bin. It wasn't a knockoff. It was just, not the logo she'd been demanding. Her smile thinned, then vanished. What is this? She said, holding it like it might stain her hands. Coach. Mason blinked. Yeah. It's good quality. I thought it. I told you Gucci, she cut in. I can't walk around with a mid-tier bag. People will think you can't afford me. Now listen, did you hear that? Not, we can't afford it. Not, let's plan. She said you. Like he was a malfunctioning machine. Mason swallowed hard. Sloane, money's tight. I'm putting everything into the business right now. When it grows, I'll get you the one you want. She scoffed. Your business. That little side project? It's cute you believe in it. Cute. That word can be a kiss or a slap, depending how it's served. Mason tried to laugh it off, but his eyes gave him away. Just, give me time, okay? Sloane tossed the purse back into the bag. Whatever. I'm hungry. Let's go. Mason picked up his keys without arguing. He had that old silver sedan, the one with the peeling clear coat and a passenger window that liked to stick. It wasn't glamorous, but it started every morning. And in Mason's mind, that counted for something. Didn't it? On the drive, Sloane stared at the dashboard like it offended her. When are you going to stop driving this thing? She said. It's embarrassing. Mason kept both hands on the wheel. It's temporary. I'm building towards something. Building? She laughed. We've been together almost a year. I'm not trying to struggle with a guy forever. Tell me, sweetheart, how long is forever to someone who's never waited for anything? Mason cleared his throat. Where do you want to eat? Sloane lit up. Downtown. That place with the dim lights. Ribeye and a glass of red. Mason hesitated. Maybe something simpler tonight? There's a family diner by the highway. She turned so fast her earrings swung. A diner? You want to take me to a diner? Mason tried to keep the peace. Just for tonight. Sloane leaned back and muttered, I swear, I could do so much better. That sentence didn't land on Mason like a rock. It landed like dust, quiet, everywhere, settling into every corner. He drove anyway. Because men like Mason don't quit on people quickly. Sometimes they should, but they don't. They didn't make it to the diner. Halfway there, Sloane's phone buzzed. She read the screen and smiled, a secret little smile. Then she said, actually, turn around. I forgot something. We'll eat later. Mason turned the car around without asking. That's how trust works, until it doesn't. 2 days later, Sloane texted like nothing happened. Meet me at Lumen Café at 7. Where's something nice? Now Lumen Café was the kind of place with candles on the tables and tiny desserts that cost too much. Mason read that message 3 times, heart thumping, because he'd been carrying a plan of his own. You see, Mason wasn't blind. He knew Sloane wanted expensive things. But he also believed, poor boy, that if he showed her devotion, she'd soften. He had a ring, modest but real, and the speech he'd practiced in his car like a teenager. Isn't it amazing what people will risk when they're hoping love will finally feel safe? At 7 sharp, Mason walked into Lumen Café with shaking hands. Sloane was already there, sitting tall, makeup perfect, wearing a new designer bag with a big shining logo. Not the one Mason bought. The one she demanded. Mason's stomach tightened. How did she get it? Sloane stood up and kissed his cheek like they were in a commercial. There you are, she said. Sit. Mason sat, eyes flicking to the bag again. That's the one you wanted. She smiled, smug as a cat in a creamery. Yep. Mason tried to ignore the warning bell in his chest. He reached for her hands. Sloane, we've had rough moments, but I care about you. I can't picture my life without you. People at nearby tables lowered their voices. Mason pulled out the ring box. He opened it. The diamond wasn't huge, but it was bright. Honest. A promise he could afford without drowning. Mason said, will you marry me? Sloane stared. Then she actually laughed, one sharp burst that made a couple at the bar turn around. This is it, she said. That stone is tiny. Mason's face went hot. It's what I can do right now. I'll upgrade it when my business grows. I'm working. Sloane waved her hand. Your little hustle is never going anywhere. I'm not tying myself to that. Then she leaned in, voice low and mean. And I'm definitely not wearing that. Mason looked at her like he'd never seen her before. Sloane, why are you being like this? She rolled her eyes. Because I'm done pretending. Grant told me you'd never change. Mason blinked. Grant? Sloane's smile returned, cold and satisfied. The guy I've been seeing. The one who understands what a woman deserves. Mason's fingers curled around the velvet box like it might keep his world from breaking. He whispered, so that's how you got the bag. Sloane shrugged. I wasn't going to wait for you to figure life out. There was a pause, and in that pause, Mason's hope finally realized it was alone. Sloane stood and slid her chair back. Good luck, Mason. Really. But I need a man with results. She walked out of the cafe, heels clicking like punctuation at the end of a sentence. Mason stayed seated long after she left. He didn't cry right away. Some heartbreak comes with shock first, like your body can't accept it all at once. Have you ever felt your pride and your love fighting in the same chest? He walked outside holding that ring box. The air smelled like rain and car exhaust. He sat in his old sedan and finally let the tears come, quiet and angry. He didn't call her names. He didn't text a paragraph. He didn't beg. He just sat there, breathing through it, because sometimes dignity is the only thing you can still afford. Dignity is free, but it's not cheap to keep. Now, Sloane went straight into Grant's arms like she'd been running there the whole time. Grant was flashy, new watch, smooth talk, easy money. The kind of man who knows what to order without looking at prices. And for a while, Sloane thought she'd won. She posted pictures. Fancy restaurants. Weekend trips. That designer bag placed just so in every frame. She wanted the world to see her upgraded life. But pictures don't show what happens when the phone is face down on the table. Do you know how many people smile in public while their trust is rotting in private? Meanwhile, Mason woke up the next morning and went to work. Not because he felt strong, because he didn't know what else to do. Work was the one place his mind didn't have to replay the scene at Lumen Café. That week, he listed more items online. He stayed up later. He learned shipping shortcuts, supplier tricks, and customer service scripts. He turned hurt into motion. At first, the business didn't magically bloom. Orders trickled. Returns came. A package got lost. Mason wanted to throw his laptop across the room. But then he'd remember Sloane's laugh. And that memory would push him back into the chair. One night, around midnight, Mason drove to the 24-hour print shop to make labels. The clerk behind the counter was a woman about his age with gentle eyes and hair tied up in a messy bun. Her name tag said Hazel. Hazel noticed his tired face. "Long night?" she asked. Mason gave a half smile. "Feels like I've been awake for a month." Hazel slid his labels across the counter. "You running a business?" "Trying to," Mason said. Hazel nodded like she understood trying. "Keep trying. Trying is where the story changes." That line stuck to Mason's ribs. Over the next few weeks, Mason saw Hazel now and then, always working, always kind. She never flirted like she was selling something. She just asked simple questions. "Did you eat? Did that shipment arrive? Are you sleeping at all? Doesn't it feel strange when someone's care comes without a hook in it?" One evening, Mason admitted, "My girlfriend left. Said I was going nowhere." Hazel didn't gasp. She didn't gossip. She just said, "That must have hurt." He nodded, throat tight. Then Hazel said something I wish every grown person could hear once. "Being left doesn't mean you were unworthy. It means they couldn't see you." Mason drove home in silence, but it was a different silence, less shame, more clarity. Months passed. Mason's store began to inch upward. A mechanic in another state started buying in bulk. A review went viral in a small hobby forum. Mason reinvested every extra dollar, just like always. And Hazel? She didn't ask for gifts. She didn't demand weekends. When Mason tried to take her to an expensive restaurant as a thank you, Hazel frowned. "Don't," she said. "If you're building something, build it. I can eat a sandwich and be happy." Mason stared. "You'd rather I invest than impress you?" Hazel smiled. "Impress me with your character. The rest will come." Now that, my dears, is where the tide started turning. Mason upgraded his systems, rented a small storage unit, then a tiny warehouse. He hired one part-time helper. The old sedan lasted longer than it should have, but Mason didn't mind. Every rattle was a reminder, he was earning the next chapter. Sloane, on the other hand, was living fast. Grant bought her jewelry, but he also bought other women jewelry. It started as whispers, friends tagging Grant in photos at clubs, Sloane seeing a lipstick smudge on a glass. She asked him about it, and he gave her that smooth, slippery smile. "You're overthinking," he said. Sloane wanted to believe him. Because admitting the truth would mean admitting Mason wasn't the only one who could be replaced. Isn't it funny how some people demand loyalty while they're handing out betrayal? One Saturday, Sloane showed up at Grant's condo with takeout and a new dress, ready to be adored. The door opened, and there was another woman inside, laughing, barefoot, wearing one of Grant's shirts like she belonged there. Sloane froze. The woman froze. Grant didn't even look ashamed. He shrugged and said, "Sloane, don't make this dramatic. Don't make this dramatic." As if heartbreak is a choice. Sloane left with her pride bleeding. She tried to post through it, selfies, captions about knowing your worth. But the gifts slowed down. The trip stopped. Grant moved on, because that's what men like Grant do, they love the chase, not the keeping. Bills arrived. The designer bag didn't pay them. The jewelry didn't comfort her at night. And for the first time, Sloane noticed how quiet her apartment felt when nobody was applauding her. Attention is loud, devotion is steady. Back in Mason's world, something clicked into place. A large supplier offered him a contract if he could meet volume. Mason took the risk. He worked like a man possessed, but not desperate, focused. Hazel helped in small ways. She brought him meals when he forgot to eat, organized packing slips, reminded him to rest. Mason's business finally hit the point where people started using that phrase, "He's doing really well." He bought a reliable truck for deliveries. He moved into a better apartment. He paid off old debts. And one evening, standing beside Hazel in his little warehouse office, he realized he felt peaceful again. Have you ever noticed how peace is the first luxury worth buying? Mason took Hazel's hands and said, "I don't have a perfect life. But I have a real one. Will you build it with me?" Hazel didn't inspect the moment for its resale value. She smiled like she'd been waiting to be asked. "Yes," she said, simple and sure. Now we come to the part where the old days dust rises, where past and present brush shoulders in a place neither expected. 2 years after Lumen Café, on an autumn afternoon, Mason walked into a high-end shopping district to pick up a gift bag from a boutique. Not for Hazel, Hazel's birthday had already passed, but for Hazel's mother, who loved a certain perfume. Mason stepped outside carrying that glossy bag, and the sun hit his watch, his jacket, his calm. His truck was parked at the curb, clean and new-looking. He took out his keys and turned. And there stood Sloane. She looked like someone trying to hold herself together with sheer will. Still pretty, yes, but her confidence had cracks now. Her eyes landed on the boutique bag first. Then the truck. Then Mason's face, as if she was checking to see if he'd really become the person she said he'd never be. "Mason," she said, voice small. Mason paused. "Sloane." There was a beat where the past tried to climb into the present. Sloane forced a smile. "You look different." Mason nodded politely. Life changed. Sloane glanced at the bag again. "Is that from Bellamy Boutique?" "It is," Mason said. Sloane's laugh came out nervous. "So you shop there now?" Mason didn't brag. He just said, "I buy gifts sometimes." Sloane stepped closer. "I've been thinking about you." And there it was, the reach. The rewrite. The attempt to edit history. Mason raised an eyebrow. "Have you?" Sloane rushed her words. "I made mistakes. I was harsh. About the ring. About everything." She swallowed. "Grant and I, we're not together." Mason's face stayed calm, but inside he felt something like closure settling in. "I'm sorry it ended badly," he said, "and he meant it the way you mean sympathy for a stranger." Sloane's eyes darted. "Listen, She took a breath and tried the bold move. "That ring you offered. I should have said yes. I don't need big things. I just want love. Now tell me, sweetheart, if she didn't need big things, why did she notice the boutique bag before she noticed his eyes?" Before Mason could answer, a voice called from down the sidewalk. "Mason? Baby, you ready?" Hazel walked up, wearing a simple dress and a warm scarf, the kind of beauty that doesn't beg for attention because it has nothing to prove. Hazel kissed Mason's cheek. "Hey," she said. "Oh, hello." Mason turned slightly, creating a gentle boundary without being rude. "Hazel, this is Sloane. We knew each other a while back." Hazel offered her hand. "Nice to meet you." Sloane's smile strained. "I didn't realize you were with someone." Mason nodded. "I am." Hazel lifted her left hand to adjust her scarf, and the light caught her ring, elegant, bright, and undeniably substantial. Sloane stared. "You're engaged." Hazel smiled, almost shy. "We are. The wedding's in the spring." Sloane's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes flicked from Hazel's ring to Mason's face, searching for an explanation she could tolerate. Hazel checked her phone. "We should go, or we'll be late for dinner with my parents." Mason nodded. "Right. Reservations at 7. Sloane blurted, "Where are you eating?" Hazel answered pleasantly, "That little bistro downtown. The one with the candles." Mason didn't smirk. He didn't twist the knife. But the irony stood there on its own 2 feet. Hazel took Mason's arm. "Ready?" Mason looked back at Sloane, voice steady. "It was good to see you. Take care of yourself." They started walking away. Sloane called after him, voice cracking. "Mason, wait. What does she have that I didn't?" Mason stopped. "Not for drama. For truth. Do you know the difference between revenge and honesty? Sometimes they look similar from far away." Mason turned, speaking quietly so it wouldn't become a scene. "She didn't treat my dreams like a joke," he said. Sloane's face tightened. Mason continued, "When I bought something small, she thanked me. When I tried to spend money just to impress her, she told me to save it. When I worked late, she asked if I was okay, not what I was buying." He took a breath. "You measured me by what I could provide that week. Hazel measured me by who I was becoming." Sloane's eyes filled, but Mason didn't soften the truth into comfort. "Some lessons need to sting so they can heal." Sloane whispered, "I believed in you, a little." Mason shook his head gently. "Belief doesn't come with conditions." Hazel squeezed his arm, a silent signal. "We don't have to stay here." Mason nodded. "Goodbye, Sloane." He turned away, and this time, he didn't look back. Sloane stood alone on that sidewalk, watching the life she once mocked walk into a warm future without her. And that, my dears, is the moment consequences stop being an idea and start being a reality. Now let me be clear, because I'm old enough to say things plainly. This story isn't telling you to stay with someone who can't afford luxuries. It's telling you to pay attention to how someone treats you when money is involved. Do they respect your effort, or do they resent your limits? And it's also not saying Sloane was doomed forever. People can change. But change begins with humility, not with regret after the upgrade is gone. Love grows best in soil made of respect. Mason and Hazel went on to marry. Not because money appeared like magic, but because partnership appeared like truth. Mason still worked hard. Hazel still kept him grounded. And the funny thing? When you stop chasing applause, you start building a life that doesn't need it. If you're listening to me right now and you feel like Mason felt, laughed at, underestimated, treated like a temporary option, remember this: your future doesn't need their approval. It needs your discipline. Have you been giving your best to someone who only notices your price tag? And if you're more like Sloan, I'm not here to throw stones at you. I'm here to warn you. Don't confuse gifts with devotion. Don't confuse a logo with loyalty. And please, don't wait until someone is thriving to suddenly see them. Because the saddest sound in the world isn't a breakup. It's the echo of your own choices coming back to you when it's too late to rewrite them. If this story made you think of someone, share it with them. And before you go, give the video a like. It truly helps Dust of Old Days reach more folks who still value real lessons. Until next time, keep your heart kind, your eyes open, and your pride in the right place.